Hello guys, I hope you are all doing well. In this video, we are going to talk about how we can initialize our structure variable and how we can use array of structures. So let's begin. Here I have declared a structure having the elements as roll number, gender and average marks, and then I have made the two structure variables with the name st1 and st2. Basically st1 and st2 with the content, roll number, gender and average marks. Now let's say I want to initialize these elements with some values. So we use here equals to and then I write curly braces, right? And after that, in the sequence of our data, we write the values. For example, in the roll number, let's say I want to write 1402, so I'll write here 1402, right? Then let's say our gender of st1 is f, so or female, so I'll write here character f, okay? And let's say the average marks is 72.3, so I'll write here 72.3, okay? Then close curly braces and semicolon. So now these values will be 1402 and then character f and then 72.3, okay? Later on when you will do printf, let's say after here you will do printf %d and write here st1 dot roll number, then it will give me output as 1402, right? Because the value has been initialized with the 1402. Now before that, if you change the value, let's say st1 dot roll number equals to 4428. Now basically what I mean that you can change the value with this expression, okay? st1, change st1 dot roll number with the value of 4428. So this will now become 4428. Okay, you can also take the input using the and using scanf, right? As we have talked in this previous video. So now it will give me output as 4428, right? So for initialization we use this way, right? Similarly, let's say I want to initialize student 2, so I'll write here equals to, then let's say the content 7204, let's say the gender is male and average marks is 60.8, okay? So this will be 7204, okay, then m and then 60.8, right? So this is our first way of initializing the values. Now another thing is that instead of writing the values, I can also write here 0. Now 0 means that every value will be the 0. For example, the roll number will be 0, character will be null character, okay, and average marks will be 0, okay, 0.00 we can write, okay? So 0 means everything will be 0, and this is also the default nature. For example, if I don't write here anything, this will be same as this, okay? So either I can write here st2 or I can explicitly initialize with the 0, okay? It means everything will become 0 or null character in case of character. Now this is one way. Now let's say I am using the variables here, okay? So I am using here st3, right? So to initialize values from here, we will use the same process, okay? I can write here, let's say 7724, then character, let's say m, and then average marks, let's say 80.3, okay? So same thing we are using here also, right? So there will be st3 and then values, the roll number will be having 7724 and then m and then 80.3, okay? This is gender and this is average marks, right? And if you want to use another value with this, you can also write to comma and then st4 and then initialize it with some values, okay? I am writing here just 0 here, okay? So this is how you can initialize the structure variables, right? Now one additional thing that I want to tell you is that when you are using variables in this form, basically after the curly braces and not using the data type, then you do not require to use this name here, okay, right? So if you are not using this, then you can make our structure in this format also, but if you are using the format in this way, then you have to use students or write the name of our structure also, okay? So remember that. Now let's talk about the need of array of structures in C. To understand the need of array of structure, let's take an example. Let's say we want to store the information of one student. Then I can simply write here st1. Okay, then later on in our programming we can take the inputs using end of st1 dot roll number, end of st1 dot gender in this way. Okay, so this is just for one student, right? Now let's say I want to store the information for two students, then I can write here comma st2, it will be fine. Then let's say I want to store the information of 50 student or 100 student, then the number of variables will be now 50 or 100. Okay, so this will be now st3, then st4 and up to st50. Okay, so this is not a good approach. Instead of using that, we use the array. Okay, array of structure. So I'll write here st, let's say 50. Okay, so before what was happening, it was st1, then st2 and then st3. Okay, then each was having their own, okay, each were having their own data, right? Now what I have done, I have used the arrays here. So basically it means that it will be st0 will holding the data, then st1 data, and then st2 and then st3 and then st4 and then st5 and so on up to st49, because the indexing is starting from the 0th location. Okay, remember that we are talking about the array of structure. So basically we have defined the 50 variables. Okay, and to access any particular variables we will be using their respective index. Okay, index could be 0, 1, 2 and so on. Okay, now let's say I want to store the information of 50 students having the properties of roll number, gender and average marks. So I can use here loops for int I equals to 0, I less than 50 and then I plus plus, right, then curly braces, and I'll write here, let's say printf. You can write anything in printf, enter first student, or let's say I'll write here %d student information. Okay, and then here I'll write I plus 1. Okay, basically in the first iteration it will write enter, then I will be 0, so I plus 1 will be 1, so it will be written enter first or one student information. Okay, then I'll write here scanf %d and then I'll write end of st, the name of our variable, then indexing will be according to the I. Okay, so sti dot, let's say roll number, right? So what will happen in the first iteration, it will be, whatever will be the user will give input, it will be storing in the location of st0 dot roll number. Okay, in the next iteration I will become 1, so next student information will be storing in st1 dot roll. Okay, st1 dot roll. Now I can also write here scanf, then %f, or let's say %c, and then end of sti dot gender. Okay, and then also scanf %f and then sti dot av marks, right, and then close it. Okay, before these statements you can also write, to make it better, that enter the roll number of %d student. So %d replace like this. Okay, I plus 1, so it will be like enter the roll number of first student, then before it enter the gender of first student, then enter the average marks of first student. Okay, then in the next iteration I will be increased by 1, then it will be replaced by the I plus 1, which will be enter information of second student. Okay, you can do it for making the program easy to understand, but right now I am just talking about the concept here. Okay, so now in the first iteration we will be seeing that it is written end of sti. So what it means, there will be first of all st0. Okay, I will be 0, I will be 0, right? So this will be for st0, then it will be having three things, that will be roll number. So whatever the user will give the input, it will be stored in the st0 dot roll number. So let's say student gave 1402, so it will be stored here. Then in gender it will give input as m, so it will be stored in this, which will be its gender, and this will be roll number, and this will be average marks. Okay, then in average mark it is writing 72.5. okay, so it will be stored here. Then after this iteration another loop will again run, and then it will be I equals to 1, right? So now whatever will be the user will give input, this is going to the st1, okay, because the value of I has been increased, right? So let's say the user give input at 7204 as roll number, then for gender it is writing F, then for average marks it is writing 32.8, okay. So this will be stored in this location. Similarly, for next iteration the values will be stored in st2, then in st3 and up to st49, okay. So this is how we are able to generalize the thing, and using these we are basically writing the last line of code, okay. After that loop, let's say I want to print the values of the stored information of 50 students, then I can again use the loop for I equals to 0, I less than 15 and I plus plus. After that I write here printf, then %d, and for stu1, which means sti, which means the information of first student dot roll number, okay. Similarly printf, then %f, or let's say %c, comma sti dot gender, right. Similarly %f and then sti dot av marks, right, and then we close it, right. So basically in the first iteration I will be 0 and the value which will be printed here will be of st0 and its roll number, okay, roll number. So whatever we have stored here before, it will get printed here, okay. So remember that when we are talking about the array of structure, to access the value we use sti dot roll number, okay, or the property or element we can say. Now I here could be anything. For example, I want to access the third student information, so I'll write here st2 dot name of any information, for example gender, okay. And when we are taking the input, we will just use end, right. So this is how we use the array of structure. This is really important concept, and in the future programming, when you will be using the concepts of classes and objects in the higher programming language, let's say of C++ or C# or Python, Java, then you will see that the concepts of classes is similar to the concepts of structures, okay. The working of the classes will be similar to the structures explained here, so remember that, okay. So that's all for today guys. I hope you like the video. If you have any doubt, please comment it down. Thanks for watching, and I have to see you in the next video.